Welcome one and welcome all to another King Cobra video. One unlike others I've done before in the past. And this one starts with Adina shedding out of his old skin and into his new breeding season coat. You'll notice the huffing and puffing coming from his nostrils, inflating that headpiece. Now that's air. It passes through the cracks and crevices as he exhales, and essentially it helps separate him from the shed, like blowing into a balloon that he's coming out of. The bubble you see is air plus the thin layer of mucus that lubricates this full shed piece. The shedding process helps to remove parasites, it heals up old wounds, and it's the snake's way of growing. A snake's muscles stretch and retract to help them slide out of their skins. Humidity and temperature are another two key factors to a good shed, paired evenly with the mental state of a snake, believe it or not. Out he comes to observe the world. What's in there, he wonders. Oh, it's Sir Scratchy. Another dude. No thank you. Back to shedding. The longer the process takes, the more room for error. It's a time-consuming process, and they are left slightly more vulnerable at this stage. A process that sounds, albeit, pretty satisfying. Given the time, they'll leave you a piece worthy of mounting on the wall. And some snakes like this guy don't mind a helping hand every now and then. Once he's out of shed, he'll soon be in the mood, prioritized on finding a mate over a meal. Their introduction started off as you'd expect, so Adina immediately heads inside to to check me out. He's checking me out, and she's right behind you. He's seeing if I'm well, if I'm climbable, if I lead to a meal or a female, right? She's totally not behind you. She's right behind you. Just even Sir Scratchy is like, what are you doing, bro? Just, yeah, she's right behind you. Skittles is displaying her full submission. This involves lying still and allowing him to have his way with her. Accepting females will spread their hood out wide and their head low, all the while keeping their backs toward the male. Gotta make sure he doesn't accidentally see me as a rival now, so slow and steady. He checks her out for quite some time. Gentle taps and nudges are used. Mating rituals like this don't end so quickly. They know very well to avoid any sudden or false movements, because if she remains calm, you might make it out unscathed. He heads inside to align himself with her. Adina, as well as most other kings, will display head-butting behavior. Now this looks rough, and it sometimes is. However, most females will not get hurt from it, provided they're the proper size. It's just a very impatient male trying to get laid. Like, that's what it is, honestly. Like, you can guess it. I figured it was best to let them stay together for a while and come check on them later, giving them more privacy in exchange for some courting footage, but oh well. It's not like I could shoot that 1 year from now and use that. Oh? Confusing, yes. But I'll fill you guys in on that later. For now, just know that this footage is of their second successful pairing for this year, being 2023. This YouTube video, however, is covering the breeding and full clutch from last season. I didn't get it all on camera, but I figured I had to show what it looked like. Within minutes, he was on top of her. Pushing the right buttons, he worked her into a perfect spot. Before you know it, red rocket's out, the lock is made, and they'll stay like that for likely 30 or 40 minutes. Now it was high time I left them alone. Starting from there, Skittles refused all meals and spent all of her days basking, and by the middle to end of April, you could notice Skittles' bumps fairly easily. The eggs are well developing inside her, and I only made a guess of around 20 eggs, but after her pre-lay shed, she began excavating inside the cave, in which that meant it was time to add a lot of extra substrate, bamboo leaves and sphagnum moss being the majority. Fast forward to May 7th, and what do I see? Her sitting atop a huge pile of eggs. Although it was a sight to behold, the work was far from over. As she didn't cover all her eggs, I decided it would be best for me to incubate them artificially. That means I had to remove all of her eggs into separate tubs for incubation. She acted curious, just like any other day toward me, yet visibly exhausted, granted. And was it a problem retrieving those eggs? Was it easy? Was it hard? Not too sure. Not at all, I don't think. Don't try this. As with all reptiles, you should make sure never to rotate the eggs from their laid position. Keep them leveled at all times. And I was able to remove 18 eggs. At first, I thought, oh wow, just as expected. Until I realized that there were a ton more buried under that mound. So I figured it was best to move her out now while I manage the rest of the eggs. Now the moment of truth. Guess how many she ended up laying? 'Cause it sure as hell wasn't 18. "44 eggs and 1 slug from an incredibly proud mom." Time we fast forward a bit. Alas, hatching time is upon us, and it takes a few days to uncover the cuteness, more so to keep my excitement in check. Babies hatch out whenever they're ready, and the whole clutch was out in roughly 5 days. I'm not one to cut into eggs or just cut open slits. Au naturel is usually my way of going about things. One peeking out after another, I kept checkups extremely brief at just twice a day. Day after day, I'd come in to see the number of hatchlings doubling up, all tucked under that cozy layer of sphagnum moss. After 1 week of resting in the artificial nest and undergoing all of their first sheds, it was time to separate them. At this point in life, they're just about ready to hunt, and the last thing I want is for them to hunt each other. After all that, we take a moment and acknowledge the 5 that did not make it. Underdeveloped inside the eggs, nothing is gained without loss. But I was more than thrilled to raise up all the healthy 38 babies. And our final part in this video, feeding. As many of you know, king cobras feed almost exclusively on other snakes, which is why rearing up young can be such a hard task for inexperienced and let alone advanced venomous keepers. I offered every baby either chopped up frozen thawed native rat snakes or water snakes, and the results are as shown. They'll be eating meals like this every 4 to 5 days, or right after they defecate. Surprisingly, their metabolism is quite high. They'll feed way more often than, say, a python or a boa. Most keepers don't feed their kings enough, or they use prey that's void of their essential nutrients, causing them to rapidly deteriorate over time. Anorexia being the main killer of baby kings in captivity. These little strings of death may have enough neurotoxins in a bite to take anyone in the room down, but it doesn't mean they're the hardiest. You want to watch for any temperature fluctuations. Babies will do well at room temp, roughly 24-25 Celsius. And some notable tricks I use involve scenting their meals with a king cobra's quote-unquote favorite meal. I was using fresh sheds from vine snakes and flying snakes and even blood to get pickier babies to take different meals. Another example for picky babies, I fed house geckos. This wasn't going to be long term. You could do skinks as well, but only for picky babies to start off on something. A lot of the babies took meals on their own, if they weren't too bothered by me waving the prey around. However, the majority did take meals right off the tweezers, especially when I used Indo-Chinese rat snakes. That seems to be a drug for them. And this stage will be the hardest part by far when raising up baby kings. They are so delicate here. Never ever wait longer than 10 days between feedings, or your king's chances will drop fast. After they get started on their own, start losing those juvie colors for the first couple of months, then you won't have to worry as much. It took hours and hours and hours and hours to get many babies to react toward the food the way I'd hoped. Some took meals without a hitch. Less hassle, the better. Some would make even a Buddhist monk break his vow of silence, like, God damn. And I can't stress this enough, if the king you're working with shows signs of stress or won't stop hissing and striking at you, leave it alone. Like I said before, all of these babies from this clutch came out relaxed and stayed that way. Take what I do with a grain of salt, as most of the free handling isn't considered unwise. But anyway, I'm more than glad to have gotten these babies well started and acclimated. I didn't have to assist feed more than a handful of them, and even when I did, it was only once. In the end, most of these guys were sent on their way to local serpentariums and other facilities that'll take the best care of them. Despite it all, I will miss them very, very dearly. And I hope this video helps any future keepers or breeders of this magnificent species to better understand their behavior and mating habits. Maybe do it safer than I did, who knows. But that's all I've got for this video. I'll see you in the next one.